Welcome to the Financial Planner Live podcast. Today I am joined by Michael Donkor, who is a financial planner in the great city of London. Michael, thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No worries, buddy. No worries. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great, to be fair. Just kind of getting my stride together with work and, trying to cope with this whole COVID situation.
Yeah, right.
Family
Yeah.
and everything. So,
Yeah.
I'm in a good place. Mentally, I'm in a good place. I think that's what's important at the moment, that I feel positive about things in general, even though, there's a lot going on and a lot to be worried about. But yeah, I feel okay.
Good man. So what were you sort of working from home during COVID? Did you have an office and all of that in London? Were you working with part of a team, or have you always been home-based, flexible? Did it affect your working life at all?
Yeah, it did. It did. So I was previously working at a practice in Canary Wharf in February. Left that practice. Was looking to move into a new practice around March, April. I think it was April, and then the COVID and lockdown situation happened, and that just kind of shifted things. And it was mainly because I was considering an employed role. And, the practices that I was speaking to naturally wanted to kind of wait it out and see how things were. So, for a couple of months, I was pretty much at home with the family, not doing too much, just catching up with people. I would say freelancing, but just doing a bit of work with a few odd people. And then once I finally got into a role, one of the other things I had to do was wait for my license. So naturally, when you move into certain companies in the financial industry, you need to be regulated by the FCA. So I had to wait for my license, which took a couple of months before I could actually get off the ground, basically.
Okay, so that's interesting then, because obviously I run a recruitment agency, and what similar things happened. So we had a great big pipeline of candidates that had all accepted offers and were all due to start, and all these companies were like, well, we can't get them to start now, we don't know when they're going to start. So we lost this great big pipeline of business. I nearly lost my mind. And then you're thinking, shit, when are these guys going to start? So you were one of one of those people, really, because it affected me as a recruiter, and a great big pipeline and a team of people that were hoping their candidates would start and they'd be earning some bonuses and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, on the other end of it, there are people like you that were in limbo. You couldn't start the job. And was that an employed? So were you going into an employed role, or were you going to a self-employed role?
I was kind of weighing up the option of an employed role with this whole COVID situation, and me still feeling like a fairly new in the industry, because I've been doing it for about 3 years, and I've every time I've gone to certain places or spoken to people, especially the more experienced advisors, they've been in the game for like 15-20 years or so. So I was kind of looking at it as an opportunity to learn off a few other people as well, and go into an employed role. Some of the companies that I was looking at had to hold back because they wasn't sure whether they should be recruiting anybody, and they just needed to recalculate everything and make those decisions, and that just left me in limbo.
Right. Yeah. So were you sort of screwed on salary and stuff like that? Did you have an income coming in?
No. I had just savings that I was using, and I was waiting to move eventually into a self-employed role with another practice. And, when I signed up with that company, naturally, for me to start advising fully, I had to get my FCA license, and that took about 4 months.
Yeah, there's a big delay, wasn't there? There was a huge delay on that, getting people authorized.
Yeah, but these things happen, isn't it? So
it's funny though, because it's frustrating, but we're talking about it today because obviously the news came out yesterday, and we're sort of sitting there thinking, oh, for God's sake, I hope we don't have to go through all of this again. It was very stressful, but hasn't it gone so quickly? And it's such a difficult, it was such a difficult time. So dare I say, use the word unprecedented, because it's been bashed around so many times, but it was really difficult. And it was just, no one had a clue what was going on and how we're going to pay the bills and all that type of stuff. And it's amazing how we get through it, you know, the resilience, and we get through it, and we come out the other side. And I think this kind of news yesterday, nobody wants to see COVID sort of fire up again. Nobody wants to go into a lockdown. I don't believe that's going to happen. But at the same time, kind of, I think people this time, though, everybody I'm speaking to just seems to be more positive about it and being a bit more pragmatic and more sensible about it. You know, it's like, you don't have to send everybody home. You just need to make sure that it's clean and that people they're not sitting on each other's laps. And, you know, we've sort of moved into technology so we can do video talk, and, you know, people can still go into offices. You're not banned from going in your office unless there's a complete lockdown again, which I don't think will happen. I think we'll be okay. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it felt like the first time it was a panic, wasn't it? It was almost like nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows where they're going to be, if they're still going to be in their jobs, if there's even going to be any jobs going forward. And then they locked everyone down and you couldn't go anywhere. And everyone's buying up all the toilet paper in the supermarket. So,
what was that about? That was mental. You look back on that and it's like, what are you doing, you lunatics? That is so weird, isn't it? Like, looking back on people's mentality.
It's crazy because it did create all of that paranoia, you know, and being at home. And, you know, I remember being at home and thinking, like, oh, I'm down to one toilet roll. Like, am I not going to be able to get the toilet roll for the family? And just thinking that literally there's no toilet roll around. And this was the main, like, bane of my life at the time, you know, in terms of what was going on. Besides the fact that I was waiting to move into another job and I couldn't get one, and just kind of floating around a little bit. So it was just a crazy time, but I think I got through it with having the family around, you know, building a routine, building a routine for the kids, because I needed to keep them motivated, keep them positive. They had no idea what was going on as well. So it was a bit of an educational side of things for them as well. And for us as parents, and, you know, just trying to keep everyone in a kind of positive mindset, really.
Cool, man. Right, great. So you're on the Financial Planner Life podcast today. As I sort of mentioned to you, the podcast is all about really talking about your experiences of being a financial planner, how you got into the industry, the ups and downs and stuff like that, to hopefully inspire other people, our listeners. And hopefully we'll talk about a few other things about financial planning as well that might not get spoken about. So what would be really great for our listeners and for me to understand would be, first off, not everybody grows up saying, I want to be a financial planner when I grow up. You know, so I always love to start with understanding how is it you got into financial services? Why did you choose to become a financial planner?
So it's a bit funny. I was, when I left university, I started working in the bank. I was working based in East London. I was there for about close to 2 years, and I was in a personal banking capacity. So I was, you know, kind of doing the meet and greet, opening accounts, credit cards, loans, you know, and then it got to a position where I started working alongside the mortgage advisors and the financial advisors in the branches. And that was my first experience of kind of financial advice. So I had a financial advisor that was going across various branches and meeting clients. And I was kind of like, I want to do what you do. And started to speak to him a bit more about his role, start to understand that. And that's when I got the first taste of kind of financial advice, financial planning, because a lot of what I was doing was, you know, somebody will come in, they would have maybe a concern about something to do with their bank account, and I might speak to them about insurance or pensions or just anything outside of that, and then direct them to the financial advisor, and then they might end up becoming a client of his. And that just really interested me. And what I essentially did was try to move into that role at the bank that I was in. And they said to me that I'd need to move into mortgages first.
Right.
Which was a little bit weird for me, because in my head I was thinking, well, I want to do financial advice. Why are you moving me into mortgages? So I didn't understand at the time, and I was a bit frustrated. And I basically started doing a bit of digging around and noticed the CFA, the Certificate for Financial Advisors at the time. So this was about 2009, 2010. And, I remember going back to my manager to saying, look, I'll be honest, I just found this qualification. I could probably do this and just go to another bank and be a financial advisor. It was a bit, kind of cheeky of me, but I kind of thought that this was the path. And they didn't really want to help me with that. So I left the bank, started studying that qualification, did the first exam, which was like the UK regulation exam, and somehow stumbled across my CISI level 3 exams for securities, and just switched into that and started studying to be a broker.
Right.
And,
okay.
Yeah, so it was a bit weird. I just kind of shifted my energy from that kind of financial aspect into trading and investing, and became a broker after I got my qualifications for that.
Right.
Ended up doing that for about 6 or 7 years. And when I turned 30, I think I got to a point where I was like, I'm actually ready to get into this properly and take this seriously and start thinking about the long term. And then I made the jump into wealth management and financial advice.
Okay, cool. So that's interesting. So yeah, started at the bank then. It's very common that a bank would want to then push you down the route of becoming a mortgage advisor before you became a financial planner.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't have to tell you, that was very much the training ground for
Yeah.
financial
Yeah.
planners, pre RDR. I mean, when we had loads and loads of financial advisors going around, the bank shutting all their advice side down completely killed the training ground for good financial planners. So not too keen on mortgages, you decided to then step outside of that, do your CFA qualification, bit of a blast in the past there. And then whilst doing that, you understood that, oh, actually, there's another area here. It's stockbroking, it's investment management. And you looked at the CISI qualification. Again, not unusual. And I think the world of stockbroking, investment management sounds quite sexy, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was like 22, 23 at the time. And I was at that mindset, I want to be like Wolf of Wall Street or Boiler Room at the time, those kind of films I was watching on Wall Street. And, I just really was interested in, kind of trading the market and not knowing that there was a difference between being a trader and being a broker.
Right.
And then did my qualifications. I did my level 3 in securities. Once I got that, I found a role as a junior broker or junior equity dealer, so to speak, and moved into that profession. So I was doing that for about 1.5 years.
So what's the difference then between trading and stockbroking?
Well, when being a broker is all about being the middleman. So you're essentially on the sales side. You're on the phone. You have your clients. Your research department might have investment opportunities for you to present to your clients. You may have some of your own, and you're effectively calling your clients to trade on their behalf. So I would be advising them on investments that we felt as a company could benefit them, and advise them to put a certain amount in to invest in the market. Now, the difference between that and a trader is usually someone that's sitting in front of the screen trading, maybe prop trading, trading the company's money, trading for their own, in terms of their own finances as such, and making money for the company. So the broking side was more of a kind of like a sell orientated role, because it was a lot about being on the phone, speaking to your clients daily, keeping them up to date with their portfolios or their trades, and telling them when to buy, and more importantly, telling them when to sell. So there was a lot more interaction with the client.
I suppose in that role as well, you're dealing with the highs and lows. You could be phoning your client up and sort of telling them about something fantastic or something brilliant that's just happened with their investments, but at the same time, you're telling them you just lost a shitload of money.
And I was, kind of in the space where I was looking at small cap shares, so the AIM industry, the AIM market, as well as the main market. So, there'd be times where, naturally we would inform clients of the risks, but there'd be times where you have to make that call and say, "Oh, just let you know, like, you lost all your money on that investment," or, that investment's gone up 30, 40%, what do you want to do about it? And, they're not always nice conversations to have, but the whole emphasis of that role is to, keep going, keep trading, keep finding ideas for the client to benefit from, hopefully. And, keep it going basically. And you just had to get a bit of thick skin, because you got used to some clients not being happy with stuff. It's kind of a very fickle industry. Sometimes the investment goes well and you're their best friend, and then when it goes bad, they hate your guts and they don't want to pick up the phone to you. And it happens, and you just have to get some thick skin and get used to it.
So when you look at the films like Wolf of Wall Street and whatnot, what's the reality of working as a broker or as a trader? Is it a bit sort of work hard, play hard? Is it a bit like that, or is that quite false, that image?
I think when I was there, it was like that. Probably more so because the guys that I learned from, they were really serious about you get in on time, you take things seriously, you do your trades, you take care of you own your stock. If we allocate something to you, you make sure that you find someone to place that stock to, and you take ownership of that stock. And that always stuck to me in terms of how I operated on a day-to-day basis. So it was kind of work hard, but then you would get rewarded, and not just from a monetary way, but the guys that I was working with, the guys that were managing me and mentoring me, it was like a family unit. They'll take me out, they'll put the arm around me, and well done, let's go out for a drink, let's stay in touch. It wasn't just you go into the office, they shout at you the whole day, and then you go home and you start crying in your bed because it didn't go well. You know what I mean? It was really a tight-knit network, which I really enjoyed that. And I think, as I kind of went through my process and my experience, because I eventually became a manager of brokers and training certain individuals, I felt that kind of disappeared a little bit, because I felt there wasn't much discipline there. I think a lot the younger generation kind of assumed that it was an easy win. You get in and you get on the phone and you make a few trades, and then you go down the pub and have a piss up, and then happy days from there. But there was a lot of hard work in it. I remember getting so many no's, and I remember one time when I first started out, and jumping on the phone and trying to call a client, and it didn't go as well as I thought. And I won't say his name, but the guy that was mentoring at the time just grabbed the phone, just put the phone down. I was like, that was shit, let's start again. And that kind of stuff just sticks to me, because it just reminded me that I need to be prepared when I'm going into these kind of situations, and at least be confident in what you're about to say and how you're about to go about things, even if it doesn't go as planned, even if it doesn't go in your favor. But it was just about being prepared. And I think a lot of the time, a lot of the guys that I ended up dealing with later on in life, or just from what I saw, thought that they could just walk into the role and just make money, and it wasn't like that.
A bit of an ego trip, like someone thinks they're a bit special, thinks they're a bit cool, they can walk in there, do the job no matter what, but actually it's tough as nails, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I think also it's a bit of entitlement, and it might be with this kind of new age, this new day where being politically correct and you can't say certain things, and it's funny because I remember stuff like I'll probably get in trouble for some of this stuff, but I remember stuff like having to do push-ups if I didn't do the right trade and stuff like that. But I used to appreciate that more, because in my head, it was do push-ups or lose money, because I was either getting cut on my commission or I was doing push-ups, and I'd be happy doing 20, 30 push-ups. Whereas, when I got into that role and I was trying to instill that, they were like, no, I know my rights. Okay.
Oh, so, mate, you're talking to like, I run a recruitment company, right? When I'm 39 next week. Now, I totally get where you're coming from. This whole snowflake generation, this is the thing we've got to be careful with, because, there are things that shouldn't happen. Get me wrong. One guy I know.
Really do that anymore.
There's one guy I know used to make kids dress up in a chicken outfit and make them run around town in a chicken outfit, stuff like that. And it's wrong. you know, because it's bullying and stuff. But at
Yeah.
the same time, there were some things that I had to do, go through that hard way. And I look back on it and I think, do you know what? No pain, no gain. And I think I think sometimes it builds character. And we're kind of worried as managers now to even kind of say anything to try to instill a bit of, I don't know, like grit, because you're worried you're going to upset somebody and they're going to take time off, and they're definitely like, people are well more entitled, and people. One of my recruiters are going to be listening to this; they're going to be kicking my ass. But honestly, I'm a nightmare. I've had to step away from it because I'm more on the marketing side now, because my style and my approach is direct. You know, and I'm like David Goggins, mate. You know, I'm about just like stay hard. You know.
Yeah.
But you know, it can screw people up a little bit, and the last thing you want to do is
it was a crazy time, and you know, I loved it. I loved it so much because I think it really built me as an individual. You know, I wasn't always I didn't always feel as confident as I have been, and I think a lot of that helped. You know, because I and again, you know, I don't want to touch on color all the time, but you know, I was like the one black guy in the building making trades, and you know, I'll be on the phone and I'll be conscious about whether the guy on the other end knows that I'm black, or if they are familiar, if they can hear if I might have a bit of a twang in my voice and they can tell. And at certain times it would happen, and feeling uncomfortable in some scenarios, but you know, you just kind of got used to it, you know, and eventually didn't become a disadvantage. It just kind of used it to my advantage, really.
Do you think as well, being black as a broker and predominantly being predominantly telephone based work?
Yeah, it was predominantly telephone based at the time. Yeah.
So moving from like stockbroking, trading, and then moving into financial planning, when you then become more face to face, did you feel more uncomfortable being a black man and becoming a financial planner? Because obviously there aren't a great deal of there's no huge amount of black financial planners. I mean, if you think about financial services, you think middle-aged white man, don't you?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, moving from telephone based, where perhaps you built that confidence up, to then move face to face, did you feel nervous at all when you met clients?
I want to say no, obviously, but a little bit, because you know, it's all about first impression, you know, and naturally on the phone, you don't need to worry too much about that. It's about the relationship. It's about the communication. You know, I got used to being able to kind of speak to people over the phone and I wouldn't say read them, but understand what they were saying and have a conversation with them in a certain way. And, you know, kind of walking into financial advice and going into a meeting and them not knowing what I looked like and questioning whether that would be a problem. It is a conversation you have with yourself. It is something that you do sometimes build up those walls that you're going to walk in and think, oh, maybe this guy, you know, might, like you said, I might meet an old 50-year-old white guy, and he might think, what's this? Like, who's this young black kid here trying to tell me how to manage my money? You know, that kind of thought does run through your mind sometimes. And I think it's one of those things where it is you, it's you that's creating that paranoia, that anxiety, and you just have to go in with confidence that you know what you know, you are who you are, and if they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't, and just kind of go with the flow.
And have you, so, I've seen as well on the subject of it, have you ever experienced any prejudice or racism being a financial planner or working in financial services, do you think?
I guess the best way to put it would be, I'd say, I don't think I could prove it. And I think that's usually what this whole racism conversation is about. A lot of the time, you can't always prove that someone's being racist to you, but you almost can feel it. And I mean, there's been a few conversations I've had, especially when I was broken, because I think what was funny about the broken side was there'd be times when I'd go through conversations with people and then they'd realize later on that I was black. And then that was a surprise. And like, my friend down the road is a black guy as well. We have coffees together, so it was just one of those things. And when I went into the space of meeting people. I think sometimes if I went and did the first meeting and I didn't get a second meeting, I would question if it was because I was black. But I'd never be able to tell. You know, there's no way for me to tell. I don't think nobody's out you right said, hey, look, you know, I don't really deal with these guys, so I think we just leave it from here. But sometimes you might get the feeling, and I think that's why it's a bit hard to have those arguments sometimes, because you can feel it, but if you go back and tell somebody and they don't understand and they don't really experience those feelings, then it's hard for them to even believe you.
Do you think black people are underrepresented in financial services?
Yes. And the only reason I would say that is I think it comes from both sides. I think it's a case that there isn't that many significant black people in high positions. But also, I think the younger black generation are not actively looking all the time for those people in those positions. I think they're starting to look there now. And maybe it's because they are becoming a bit more accessible. Maybe because we are starting to show ourselves a bit more. Maybe because we are starting to get those opportunities. You know, I remember going to companies and they are speaking about diversity and, you know, kind of, you know, bringing more black people in, not necessarily in the senior roles, but bringing more black people in and adding them to the face of some of their marketing as such, and just making sure that there are a lot more people around. And, you know, I remember when I was growing up, I don't remember knowing any kind of black financial advisors or black brokers that I could look up to, essentially, and say, okay, you look like me, so it's possible for me to get to that level. I think now we're starting to see that a bit more. So yeah, I do feel that it is a little bit, but I think it's getting better. I think it's getting better because a lot of people my age and younger want to be in those positions. So they're not just looking for people in, that are of color in that position. They're trying to get there so that they can be that example for others as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think I think that a great way to, and you were saying it there, it's like having more women in more senior positions will only attract more women to the profession. But that's only if those women within those senior positions are actually outspoken and are putting themselves out there on social media, for example.
And want to be in those positions.
Yeah, and want to be in those positions. And it's exactly the same with anybody of any color. It's like, you know, if you want to get, you know, if you want more people to join the industry or to follow, there needs to be good role models. Those good role models need to then put themselves out there and talk about the industry as a whole to be influencers, if you like, to the minorities that aren't in the profession. So, and I think that's a really important thing. And that was one of the things that sort of drew me to you, really, because I was talking to somebody from Quilter, and they mentioned you, and you were going through a period of looking at your personal brand and changing, you know, your personal brand and how well you came across and all of that. And when I looked at your website, I really liked your website, and I really liked your personal brand that you're starting to build. You know, you are a black man, you are a financial planner, you've got your family on there and everything, stylish looking guy. And I looked at that and I thought, that's exactly the type of, that's a great image for a financial planner, you know, and it's going to only attract people, you know, young black guys or girls that are going to be looking at you, and white girls and guys as well, or any ethnicity, going to be looking at someone like you and thinking, that guy's cool. I wouldn't mind getting into financial planning. And that's the first thing I got when I looked at your branding, which is why we sort of got talking originally, wasn't it? And we started talking about personal branding and the importance of it. And we'll sort of crack onto that in a bit, actually, because I think that's a really nice area for us to talk about. So your journey sort of started within the bank. You've got into broking. You've done really well within broking. We've moved then from broking. Okay, so what made you move from broking then into financial planning? Because obviously years ago you had an idea in your head that you were going to be a financial planner, moved away from it, got into broking. But at what stage was it? What was the turning point for you to leave stockbroking and trading, and then become a financial planner?
So this was around 2017, and I was in a senior management role and managing the team with two of my other colleagues that one of them or two of them actually I was working with for majority of my broking career. And naturally in that kind of space, I just felt like it was very short-termish. I was constantly chasing every month. You almost feel like starting from zero every month with that kind of space. And I was turning 30. Midlife crisis was kicking in.
An early one.
Yeah, early one. And I just kind of felt like it was a good time for me to kind of reflect on everything and say, look, I'm ready to kind of take this step into this world of financial advice, this long-term plan in terms of building my client network and building my funds under management. And I started thinking more about my family in terms of what I wanted to provide for them, because I feel as a broker, I was very sometime-ish, in terms of how I was operating. Money was coming in, but a lot of the time I felt like I was just thinking about myself in some instances, which is a bit weird. But I'd make money, I'd put money aside for the family. In my head, I was like, okay, you lot are good. All right, I'm going out. I'm going to the party, wow. I'm going to the club, or I'm going to meet the boys at down the pub for a drink after work or so. And it just kind of felt like a ongoing thing. And I didn't feel like I was progressing to where I needed to be, take care of my family properly and, become the man that I wanted to be. So I decided to leave stockbroking, and I did get headhunted by a company that asked me to join them. And it was quite a unique proposition, because they wanted me to go to Switzerland and work with them, which was a bit random at the time, to be fair. And I was at that space where I thought, I'm having a midlife crisis. Why not? Let's see how it goes. But naturally, I wanted to get into financial advice at the time, financial planning. So I spoke to the missus and,
Did you hold the qualifications at that stage to become were you level 4 qualified when you were leaving broking and then moved over to? Yeah. So what did you do? Yeah, when did you get those qualifications? Did you start studying whilst you were broking?
Yeah. So what essentially happened was throughout my broking career, I started off at level 3, and then the RDR kicked in around 2013, 2014. So the company I was at was quite, forward thinking, wanted us to be qualified quite early on. So I think by the time the RDR kicked in, I had already done my level 4 qualification. So I was already qualified for level 4 in terms of securities. I moved into another place. I did my derivatives qualification as well. And then I went to Switzerland, assuming that was enough to be an advisor out there, not realizing that it was still quite heavily unregulated out there. So I wasn't fully qualified to give advice in the UK as a financial advisor. And I went out to Switzerland and was basically working on the offshore market and learning my trade there. So offshore bonds and QOPSs and moving into that space. And I didn't stay out there long. I was out there for about 6 months. So I wasn't comfortable. I was there by myself. I left the family to go out there. And I was really, at that space, at the time, I was really thinking about going out there and moving the family out there, just in terms of kind of standards of living. And then I eventually came back and went to a big wealth management firm in the UK. And that's when I got my investment advice diploma, which was the level 4 qualification to be a financial advisor here. So I did that and then started working in the financial advisory space in the UK. And that was in 2018, I think it was. Yeah.
So you did something quite typical, which is go and work offshore. And a lot of people, especially younger guys, will go offshore with the promise that the streets are paved with gold and there's loads of money to be earned. It's uncapped commissions. The dream that was sold to you about the company you went to, I think it was Guardian Wealth, wasn't it, you went to? Was the dream that you were sold, was the reality match? Did the reality match the dream? Or because it's a lot, it's very hard offshore. It's a very tough slog. but B, sometimes it's oversold as being this amazing job and this great opportunity, when in fact you're smashing their phones 24/7, and it's a real kind of diluted market.
Yeah, and I think it's a mixture of things. I think it was my naivete as well, because I think I kind of went in thinking it was fully regulated. I was fully qualified to do this, and maybe didn't do as much due diligence as I should have, going into that space. But also, there was an element of, you could be the biggest financial advisor out here, and there was a lot more grafting out there than I originally thought. I was okay with that because I was used to, the way I was brought up in the broking industry. I was kind of comfortable with that, but I just didn't like the idea that they had taken me out my comfort zone, which naturally I probably should have been taken out my comfort zone, but being thrown into this deep end by myself, without the family, and still not 100% sure what was going on. And I think just for me, at the age that I was at, and with all of the, well, I'm not going to say baggage, but with knowing that I had the family back home.
The baggage, that's the sort of thing that I would say. That's exactly the sort of thing that I would say. The baggage, the wife, the wife and the kids, nightmare.
She's going to kill me when she sees me. But, just having the wife and the kids back home, and just thinking this wasn't comfortable. It just wasn't comfortable. And, if I was maybe, 24, 25, and having the same mentality, having the grafting, I think it might have been a different space. Maybe I would have stayed out a bit longer. One of the guys that I was working out there, who was at that age, I think he just came out of uni. I think he's still out there, or he was out there for, another year or so. And I think it was just the situation that I was in. It just didn't feel right for me to stay there. So I came back.
Wrong time of your life, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it was a wrong time of my life. I'm grateful for the experience, because it did open my eyes to the good and the bad of this industry. But it happens, and that's been what my journey's been about. That's how I've been able to learn. I think a lot of what I've done has been through trial and error.
I think it's definitely the best way to learn. I think some people can just fall luckily into a role within financial planning, and within a couple of years they're earning serious cash, and they're just lucky that they found the right path. Whereas some other people try different routes. They go offshore, they might go self-employed, they might go employed. There's so many different avenues and so many different routes within financial planning. And a part of this podcast is really to sort of talk about that and to open it up. I had a guy come on talking about his business over in Abu Dhabi. The guy earns over $1 million a year, so he's incredibly successful on the offshore market. And it was important to me to bring people on to the podcast who have had a really positive experience out there, because I know there are people out there that do really well. But also what you've just rightfully said there is it's about the time of your life. And I think there's one thing I would say to people if they're going to go offshore, and probably back me up on this, is just take stock of exactly what it is you're leaving behind, and how much of a pull on your emotions and how much of a pull on you as a person is it going to take away, because the job is hard, it's commission based, and it's a lifestyle. You're going out there,
it's a lifestyle. It was a complete shift to my lifestyle. I was the city boy. I was making money. I was comfortable. I had the family around me, and then bam, I'm in Geneva. I'm in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself. I don't know how to get to the office. I'm trying to figure out the language. Everyone's speaking the different language there. It's a bit uncomfortable. There's not that many black people there. Well, I say that, but in terms of the space that I was in, there wasn't that many black people there as well. And it was hard for me to kind of bounce off everybody. There were certain individuals that were from London, that all from like Reading, those kind of areas that I was familiar with. But it was just a completely different environment for me. And I think it's one of those things, like you're saying, that you need to be out there long enough to get comfortable with it before you can know if it's going to work for you or not. And, I don't think 6 months was a long enough time for me to figure it out. I think maybe if I gave myself a year and a half, then I'd fully know, it's working, brilliant, I can stay. It's not working, I don't like it. Let me go back anyway.
I struggle like going out somewhere, because I had an opportunity and I really considered it, and I would struggle with, I couldn't, you know, my wife, leaving my wife here,
Yeah,
my daughter. I mean, I would certainly struggle. And I think the pull of money sometimes
yeah,
it's when you're younger, the pull of money is far greater than when you start to get older. When you start to get
yeah,
older, you value different things, don't you?
yeah,
And you don't, you know, the paycheck at the end of the day isn't, you start to learn that doesn't actually make you happy.
yeah.
So
That was the shift. That was the shift for me, because I think I was still effectively chasing money
yeah,
at the time when I made the move. And when I came back, I realized that wasn't the main thing for me. That wasn't what was keeping me going.
yeah.
It was basically being happy and kind of providing for my family and taking care of them, and
Purpose.
being with, yeah, having the purpose, being the dad to my kids, and being a husband to my
Do
wife,
you
and
think,
being,
do you believe in that? Like, you know, when you kind of like have purpose,
yeah,
like I'm kind of like, I was blindsided by money, property,
hmm,
prestige, all the things that come with, you know, ambition, all that kind of stuff. They're all good things, ambition, etc. But it can also be really detrimental to your well-being and to your health,
yeah,
I think, and to your mental health. But when I shifted my mindset over to purpose and having meaning in my life, and not caring so much about what other people had, and
yeah,
what I, you know, a house, and why have I not got that and they've got it, and
yeah,
you know how much I, you know, I was always obsessed with trying to earn 100 grand a year and
yeah,
stuff like that. And as soon as I dropped that, it's like a weight lifted from my shoulders, and then
yeah,
I started doing things I actually really enjoyed doing.
yeah,
And by doing that and having that purpose, I'm finding that more doors are opening, and
yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
you know, it's less about the money, but the money starts coming to you. It's
Yeah,
like,
and I think it's because your focus shifts, because when you're just thinking about the money, you're not thinking about how it's coming in, and the
mm,
opportunities that could come to you that could generate those funds, and you're just like, I need to just do this job and earn this X amount of money. And I went out there with that same mentality. If I just do this and do this, I'm just gonna earn loads of money and I'm gonna be brilliant, and I'll bring the family over and everything will be sweet. And I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy out there. And
mm,
I came back, and like you said, for me, I think the purpose of being happy and making sure that my family are happy, and having the right mentality in terms of how I I look at finances as well, and how I help other people look at finances was probably more important than me than just saying, look, I need to be on six figures. I need to be doing this, because that was the kind of money that I was eventually making as a broker, and I left that to go into this space, and kind of start building from scratch again, and kind of take it from there. So the money doesn't really make the man, isn't it?
no, it doesn't. No, absolutely. Well, that's interesting then, because that's good. It's a good thing to hit home here as well, especially for people that feel like, oh, everybody wants to have a bit of money. Money open, you know, money can make your life better, and it can
Yep.
sort of open doors for you and make yourself more comfortable. It's about having it's about having enough money to be comfortable, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you don't need to have millions of pounds. You don't need to have hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's about
Hmm.
being comfortable. And that certainly transcends over into financial planning and doing the job of a financial planner,
Yeah.
is sort of building that relationship with clients and getting them to understand, well, how much money do you actually need? What is it
Yeah.
you actually require to retire?
Mhm.
Or what does retirement look like to you? Where do
Yeah.
you want to send your kids to go to school? And, you know, let's be realistic and work out exactly how much you need.
Yeah.
But it also works in the same way as yourself looking for a job. So
Yeah.
you've walked away from a really high paying stockbroking job where you've built skill, you've done well, you've got up to management, you've then taken a right plunge over into Geneva. Fair play for
Yeah.
doing that. But what a baptism of fire and a learning for you to then
Yeah.
come back to then the UK. Were you thinking, shit, where do I go now? Or, you know, did doors open for you straight away?
Um, so I do remember when I came back, I was kind of just thinking, okay, well, I'll just figure out from here. I still want to be in this space. It's only just begun. So, I remember like my dad speaks to me and saying stuff like, oh, maybe you should go back into broking and stuff. And I was like, no, I don't want to. It's not really where my passion, my purpose was. So it just didn't feel right to even try and go back into that space. And within probably say 3 to 4 months of being back home, I moved into another space. So the opportunities were there, they were flowing. Um, but it was good because I felt that I had a little bit of time to actually decide where I wanted to go and why I wanted to be there. And I had a bit of time with the family as well, after being back. So yeah, again, purpose. I was thinking about where I want to be, who I want to work with, what I'm trying to achieve. And I moved into a company in Canary Wharf and started working there. And that was around 2018 or so.
Okay, cool. So you come back from Guardian, come back from Geneva, back to London, back into Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
And the company you were working for was St. James's Place then, was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So were you working as a partner, working as a did you go through their academy or did you join as an employee? What did it look like getting into your role within the UK?
I joined as a associate partner working for a practice. So I didn't go through the academy, so to speak. I went through a practice that is underneath St. James's Place, which was in one of the top 5 practices there, and it was quite intense in terms of how they operate. They're really good at getting people up and running and training and everything, and they're really serious about making it work for individuals, and really pushing people to be successful there. So it was a good opportunity for me to be in, a good learning experience as well. I had 1 or 2 colleagues that I used to work with as brokers that was in that space as well. So when I came back from Switzerland, they were very keen, encouraging. You got to come here. It's hard, but you can really do well here. I really want you to come back and come work with me, and you can, I can help you and everything. And that's what really encouraged me to go there and start building again. And just touching on the kind of looking up to somebody, I had those guys. One guy in particular, a guy called Stacey Saber, that I used to work with as a broker, that moved into that space, and that was one of the individuals that helped me kind of give me the confidence to say I can go into this space and do that. And I didn't have anybody else. We spoke about not having that many Black people there. I'd never even seen that many Black people in that space to kind of reach out to and have that kind of conversation. So it was nice to have someone like him there. But again, I think a lot more younger people would be keen to move into these spaces if they do start to see people like myself in this kind of space, and knowing that there's these opportunities there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sort of power of having a mentor as well is always going to help anybody out within their first few years and continuing through their career as well. So you had your mentor there at St. James's Place that was helping you. So you went in at St. James's Place underneath one of the large partner practices. And you've obviously had no experience really of full financial planning at this stage. So this is like really your first financial planning job. Now, what was your perception before you went into the reality of what the actual job of a financial planner does?
I guess it was still kind of linked to the bank, in terms of you're in a nice office in Canary Wharf. A client walks in and they need a financial advisor. They need your help. They're desperate. They don't know what they're doing with their finances. Their money's all over the place. They're in debt, or they've got loads of money. They're sitting on a yacht somewhere. They've got loads of money, and they just want someone to manage it because they don't have time to do it themselves because they're enjoying life too much. So there was that initial perception that everything would come to me, and I'd have to kind of figure out what to do with it. And it was interesting because it was the complete opposite. I had to go out and get it. I had to go out and look for it. I had to push for it. I had to again graft and do the chasing and get familiar with doing the running around and running from one office to another and going to meet people and being comfortable with that and having that impression in my head that I'm going to jump into this office and this guy's not going to know that I'm a Black guy and sit in front of him and give an impression and he'd be comfortable with me and say, I like this guy, let me work with him, and then hopefully become a client of mine. So it was just the complete opposite of what I originally thought. But I think they gave me ample time to kind of realize that this is what it's going to look like, this is what you need to do, and this is how you need to be comfortable with it, and just go in and kind of see how it goes.
Yeah, because that's so true. And that's the thing I want to kind of hit home, is that
Yeah.
it's not as easy as people think. And I think there is that perception. This is why people from bank assurance really struggled when they went into like the IFA world and the independent world, after RDR kicked them all out of the bank, because they were so used to people walking through their front door of the branch and sitting down with them and saying, can you help me? They weren't used to actually making those outbound calls, that grafting, that booking appointments, the building relationships with clients to get referrals, the working with introducers, and putting in the time, going for drinks and socializing and networking to establish yourself within your niche, if you like, or your arena, as being the go-to guy when it came to financial planning, because it doesn't land on your lap unless the company is got some insane marketing generating loads of leads, or you're walking into a business where you're inheriting a client bank, for instance. And you certainly weren't doing that at St. James's Place, I can imagine. No, it was hard graft. And that's one thing I want to get across to people who are thinking about becoming a financial planner, is that, you're going to have to work hard. You ain't just sitting there and someone's walking into your room and sitting down with you and saying, here's £1 million, can you invest it for me? So can you give us a kind of overview of the types of things that you had to do within your first couple of years, or even to today's date, to today? What things do you have to do to be able to win new client relationships?
So, in terms of being at that practice at SJP, there was a lot of emphasis of, I wouldn't say going above and beyond, but putting a lot of work in place to show your value. So there was a lot of emphasis of, going to see the client, showing them that you know what you're doing, showing them your confidence, showing them your expertise, instilling that need in them, or making them understand that they do need your services. And then, staying on top of them, because I think in this kind of day and age, I was in Canary Wharf, I was in the mix of things. I'm going around to meet other city professionals. These guys working on trading floors, working in compliance, working in all these spaces. They don't have time to do anything. But you almost have to convince them that they need your help, because they don't have time to realize it themselves most of the time. So it was a hard graft. You're on the phone, you're sending out emails, you're chasing people, you're networking, you're going out to meet people. If you have clients, you're looking to generate referrals from those clients as well. So it is a constant, I wouldn't say push, but it's a constant request or so to always be looking to help someone or to do business, depending on how you want to look at it. You can't sit on your laurels. You can't really just sit and assume that it's going to come to you. It just doesn't work like that. Especially, I'll be honest, for me, I felt and I felt this in most kind of ways, being the black guy, the one guy in the room, or the one or two guys, because there wasn't that many guys at the time in there, and some of them would probably speak to it as well, that you felt that you had to do above and beyond to get in line with everybody else. So it just felt like that's always been the way. So and I think maybe with me, I was kind of assuming like, it's just, I'm just like everybody else. I could just kind of walk in and give the same energy and not have to give 120% where everyone's giving 100% and get the same result. So it was a constant chase with finding new clients and such.
Can you look back and you can sort of remember the first time you actually generated a client that was a fee paying client? Can you sort of remember that?
Yeah, I remember the first client I got from there, and it was weird because I wasn't sure if I still knew what I was doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was going through the process that they wanted me to go through, but I was kind of just doing it in my own way.
Yeah.
And I think at the time I'd done it in like the first month or so. So I was quite surprised myself. in terms of when I got signed off to go out, and because you had to go through a process of training and compliance and role plays and all this kind of stuff, and then okay, you're ready to go out. You got your SPS from the CISI. You're qualified. You're good to go. Your license is in. You can go out now, and it's literally here's a meeting. Go see this guy. And I think it was one of the first probably people that I went to meet. I met him in a cafe. I met him in a Costa. We sat down. I did the meeting with him. Had the tie on and everything. You look the part. We're going through it. I'm feeling very confident. I go through the first meeting. He's happy for the next one. I go back to the office and they're like, "How did it go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he wants another meeting. He wants to sit down with me." They're like, "Oh, okay, well done." And I'm sitting there like, "Oh, okay, brilliant." Went through the whole process with him and eventually went to the last meeting where he agreed to become a client of mine. And it was a bit weird because I left like I didn't know how to feel about it because I thought like it wasn't supposed to happen. It was a bit weird. And I just remember going back to the office and being like, yeah, so he signed up. And I remember my manager happy for me, but at the same time, it was kind of like, oh, he was a low hanging fruit kind of impression. So I almost felt like it was an easy one as opposed to I did all the hard work to kind of get it through. So I didn't know how to feel about it. I just kind of felt like, oh, I still got so much more to do. Like it was an easy win. So I've got so much more to do to get a better client or bigger client or more clients. But yeah, that was the first experience, and it was a nice feeling because I felt like I was in my element. I felt very comfortable in terms of how I was doing things, the conversations I had, and at the same time I had somebody with me, so they were quite good in terms of having maybe someone in compliance or someone from an experienced background with you to kind of watch you and make sure that you're doing it properly before they go, okay, well, just kind of figure out for yourself and go on your own. So it was a nice experience.
Cool, man. So what about sort of your first, so you've been, you were working for St. James's Place for 2 years, and obviously you're in a kind of training capacity, you are learning within those first 2 years.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to an aspiring financial planner who is wanting to become an advisor? What advice would you give a trainee financial planner in their first year of being a financial planner?
Find a way to be comfortable in your own skin. And the reason I say that is because, I feel like when I was doing well in that role, it was because I was being me. And when I wasn't doing well, it's because I was trying to be somebody else. And it didn't work for me at times. There was times when I was following procedural protocol or following a process that was being emulated by somebody else. And every time I tried to replicate that, it didn't work because it just wasn't me. So for me, it was important, and going through this process, it was important for me to realize that I am who I am. The way I talk, the way I look, the way I move, the way I operate. That's me. I'm not going to change. I might get a bit wiser. I might learn a few more things, but in terms of how I communicate and how I operate, I'm not going to change that much. And I think with some of these places, they just need to be familiar with the idea of molding the person into who they're going to be, and not molding them into who you want them to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what you're saying there is, like, in your first year, don't feel you have to be something you're not. Be true and authentic to yourself and be comfortable in your own skin, because being you and who you are is what it's all about. And that's what people, you're going to build relationships, aren't you, with clients who like you as a person. Otherwise, you're turning up to meetings and you're pretending to be somebody you're not. And that's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I've tried it, and sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't, and it doesn't feel comfortable. And I just don't think it's a lasting process. And I think for some of those people that were following it, it was something that they were comfortable with. in themselves in terms of how they are and how they operate. And for me, over time, it wasn't working for me. It wasn't, I'm a very positive guy. I'm very optimistic about how I do things. Sometimes it doesn't always work or come across as creating urgency or creating any kind of fear as such. But that's me. That's how I am. I don't feel comfortable any other way. But I can still do the job. And I feel for some of these other people, they just need to be able to get into this space, but be comfortable with who they are as a person. And over time, they will be successful for it.
Okay, cool. Well, that leads us on to a little bit around sort of what we were talking about on the telephone before we had the podcast, really, because you've gone from St. James's Place, you've left St. James's Place now, and you've gone over to Alexander House Financial Planning, and which is part of Quilter, isn't it?
Yes.
So you've also set up your own website, haven't you? Your own website, your own. Now, does that mean you're an appointed representative, or is that a personal brand approach? What is it you're building at the moment?
So this is the interesting part. So when I left SJP, I was in this kind of limbo space of what happens next. But I was in a position where I started building a network where people were asking me to come on certain presentations, events to speak about wealth management. So in my head, I was thinking, well, I still want to go and speak about wealth management, but I can't go as Michael, associate partner of SJP. So I remember speaking to a colleague of mine before I left SJP, and he was one of the reasons that I set up the website. I spoke to him about what I was doing in terms of my networking, and he was like, "Do you have your own brand?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, you as Michael Donkor, the wealth manager, do people know you as your brand? And that's when kind of hit me that I need to get my website. So I got a colleague to help me set up a website for me. It wasn't the one that you're looking at now. It was just a very generic one page of me and a bit of information about what I do. And then I went to this event and kind of spoke about wealth management and just kind of went in as me talking about wealth management, giving some information about it, and just being open with everything. Like, I'm not SJP, I'm an experienced wealth manager, and this is what I've learned. This is what I understand of this space. I was speaking to kind of a young demographic at the time as well, kind of late 20s, early 30s as well. So just trying to get them into understanding what wealth management was. And that just kind of led me to start building my website and build my personal brand. And, to answer the question, it is just a personal brand of me. So I'm not a appointed representative. I work for an appointed representative. And I was very conscious that I didn't want to turn it into a legitimate legal brand, because then I feel that there would almost be some conflict of interest there. In the sense, I work for a practice. I'm working in partnership with a practice, but this is me. This is who you're going to get when you sit down with me and work with me, and this is what I'm about. So that's what I really wanted to do with the website.
It leads it down the path again, doesn't it, of what you, and this is where we're going with it with you, I think. Yeah. And this is the conversation I had over the phone. It's like, you want to be your authentic self. Yeah. You want people to do business, with Michael, not with the company. The company you're working for is the company you're working for. That's the company that you do the financial planning through. But as a financial planner, as a wealth manager, you want people to know who you are, understand who you are, and build that relationship with you personally. And by having that personal brand and starting with a website and showing your authentic self, people can buy in and like you. And as I said to you, like, I like your website. I think it's really fresh, and I think it's very, very engaging, and I can buy into you. And I feel like all the pictures on there of you are really good. It's professional, but it's also friendly, and it's modern, and it looks dynamic. It doesn't bore me, And I think one of the things that St. James's Place had a real problem with was not allowing individual financial planners to actually build upon their personal brands. And they were really pushing the whole St. James's Place brand. And, don't get me wrong, there are billions and billions under management. They're doing pretty well. They're doing pretty well for themselves. However, I don't think that brand works well when you're trying to talk to multiple different audiences. And especially in the kind of LinkedIn and digital age that we're in, and there's some really cool, funky brands and tech companies out there, and you want to come across as like a bit of a bit like you're in the know, and not some stuffy suit turning up, does that make sense? I feel like
it does, because even going to meetings at times, I remember going to meetings, and naturally so, I like wearing my suits. I like putting my tie on occasion, and I like dressing the part. So I don't mind going to certain meetings and looking that way. But there, when I was a broker, I didn't wear a tie. I walked in like this on occasion. And, as I became more experienced, I kind of had the freedom to go in sometimes like this, but on occasion I wear a tie. And sometimes I would go into meetings and feel overdressed, because I might be meeting a young guy that's in his mid-20s, that's working in investment banking. He's on 200 grand, and he's walking in with his shirt open, and he's rolled up sleeves, and he's just popped in from lunch, and he's got a bit of time, and he's a bit laid back, and I'm sitting there all like, we're going to talk about wealth management, and he's just looking at me like, who's this prick that's talking about wealth management? Just felt a bit uncomfortable, and I could feel it as well. I'd leave all those meetings feeling uncomfortable, because I wasn't being me. I wasn't being genuine. And I think that's kind of changing. And it also depends on your audience, So if I was meeting a much older person, then naturally I would assume that, I think it's important, first impression, that I have my tie on, and, they see me in a certain way, and, they see me being serious about things. And but if I'm meeting a guy or a girl that's around my age group, and they're feeling quite relaxed, then it's okay. Then I feel that I should be able to come in with that kind of conversation, have that look, and feel comfortable with that. So
I like the positioning as well. I like, you put yourself down as obviously you're a financial planner, you're a financial advisor, but also that's a financial coach. So going for that kind of financial coach angle, and that's a very kind of trendy thing at the moment within financial planning. Not everybody's doing it, but it's very Australian, very American, and I think more so in the younger generation, or the sort of generation coming, your 30s to 40s. I think coaching is kind of like a nice, it's like, I've got a financial coach. This person's going to coach me with my money, perhaps coach me around behaviors around my money, etc. Have you is that something that you are going to expand on? Coaching side, and why would you expand on the coaching side?
So I wouldn't say I stumbled into it, but I think I went to a life coaching course. And the reasoning behind that, I had a supervisor at SJP that was very keen on life coaching and understood the concept of it. And she kind of introduced me into it. And I thought that it would help with my skill set in terms of the wealth management side of things. So I went to that course, and it just kind of opened my eyes to this whole, life coaching, speaking to people and understanding their concerns and kind of work with that. And I felt it felt quite natural with me, how I operate as such. So I just kind of thought about trying to proposition that to a few individuals while I was doing my wealth management pitches on certain events. And I had one or two people reach out to me, which was quite nice because I wasn't expecting it, and started looking at that avenue and trying to help them. And then what started to happen was the people that I was speaking to were younger individuals in, say, the corporate world, that wasn't really sure how to get up into the next stage of their life or such. And one thing I noticed with this whole process was that a lot of these individuals' feelings and their relationship with money was, kind of very positively correlated. So if their money was in a good position, they were in a great position. If their money was bad, they was in a bad position. And I didn't like that, because they couldn't operate properly. If they were having a bad day, or they're having a bad month, or whatever the situation was, then they couldn't do their job. They couldn't think about how to get out the rat race, or get out of their hole, so to speak. And for me, I just kind of felt that, again, we're chasing money, but we should be chasing happiness, and trying to separate the two. And even if you're in a negative position with your finances, you can still be in a positive position with yourself and get yourself out of that.
Yeah.
And take yourself to the next level. And, I've been through it. I think a lot of people are going through it at the moment, in terms of what's happening with COVID, and, people losing their jobs, redundancies and everything. And, still feeling that there is a way to get you where you need to be, essentially. So that's how I kind of moved into that space. And what I want to do with that is really, help people that are interested in learning about wealth management, or interested in kind of being financially literate, but are just not there yet. They're just not at that level to be in wealth management, but they're at that level where they can kind of sit with me, and I can educate them on my experiences and my understanding of finance, and help them get to a certain level that I didn't get to. When I was a broke, I didn't have someone like me. I wish I had someone like me, essentially, to kind of build me to where
yeah, I think you're right there. And I think the more you can build a relationship with those types of people, because the better you're going to be, I think, in the future. You're 33 years old. Let's say in the next seven years, you build some really strong relationships through coaching, or perhaps sharing really valuable content on LinkedIn, Instagram, or whatever it is that you might well do. You're building the relationship with the next generation of wealth, aren't you? Because the next big thing is this transition of wealth. There's going to be a huge amount of wealth being transferred down to the next generation. And if they're watching and listening to you, whether you're at a seminar, whether you're an online seminar, or you're speaking on a podcast, or you're putting some video content out, or whatever it is you might well be doing, if you're building the relationship with you, when it comes to actually investing a larger sum of money, they're going to turn to you, aren't they? But if you're talking to them and educating them about different financial situations that are going to be coming up in their lives, perhaps buying a house, or you've got kids, you thought about how you're going to pay the school fees, and in your 30s you start thinking about pensions a bit more, and and all those things that you put to one side in your 20s because you're getting pissed up every single day, and having a bit of a laugh. And I think this is where I'm starting to see some financial planners, especially the younger financial planners, really sort of starting to carve a niche and find that area. And I think it's about building that strong personal brand and being accessible as well, and making yourself accessible, and making yourself authentic, and being trustworthy. And some of the quickest and best ways to do that is by putting content out there on social media. And you can come across with a really specific topic. It could be like, I don't know, how to buy a mortgage, what to expect when you're going to buy a mortgage. But you put that piece of content out there, if it's produced really well, it doesn't even have to produce well in respect of what camera you use or anything, but if the message comes across really clearly, someone goes, damn, do you know what, I've been thinking that, and that guy's just answered my question. So instantly they're going to follow you, and they're going to start buying into you, and they think, I think financial advisor, I think Michael, I'm going to go back to Michael's page. Michael talks about that a lot. And I think personal branding is huge, and it's going to be a big thing in financial planning, and not enough financial planners are really doing it. So I think your website and what you're doing and your thought process around it is definitely moving in the right direction.
Oh,
You know,
thanks.
have you stepped into social media and started looking at videos or creating content and building upon that personal brand to speak to a wider audience?
Well, yeah, we spoke about this briefly on the phone, and that's basically the next step for me. That's kind of what I want to do, and I'm learning and seeing from the likes of like I'll give a shout out to Emmanuel Eman Effect, and seeing what he's been doing, and just kind of thinking about the ideas, Money Jar, these kind of places that are bringing out good content and showing the world and social media that they're here, they're available. You can speak to them. They're giving you good content. You can work with them, and more importantly, you can learn from them. So that's something that I want to do. I really want to be in a position where I can provide some content that people can really learn. Because I always look at it from a perspective of, again, I never had me at my age. At the age when I was making a lot of money, and nobody pulled me aside and said, hey, you have the extra £500-600 here. Why don't you put aside for your kids instead of go down and buy a few more bottles in the club, or go to the pub and buy another round for the boys. I didn't have that conversation with anybody. I had to figure it out by myself. And I just want a lot of the younger generation to kind of realize that you can still live your life and enjoy things, but there are other things that will become more important to you, and the sooner you start, the better it will be. And one of the key things is just understanding how your finances work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. Financial education is such a massive thing at the moment, and it can be done so well. And I think it's about the message, how you come across. But obviously, as we said before, it's about being true and authentic and building that trust, because I think sometimes people feel like, especially financial planners, they don't really want to give away anything for free. They don't, because, so why am I going to give it away for free? They should pay for that. And I think that's a very old school mentality, because I've found the more I give away, the more I get back.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because, nobody really says that stuff about accountants or solicitors. But we're no different from them in terms of providing a service and adding value to a client's lifestyle. So the only difference I feel in most cases is that I wouldn't say the work's already done, but if you look at it from an accountant's perspective, they're looking at things retrospectively, because usually you go to an accountant after you have all this pile of money and you don't know what kind of tax you need to pay before the taxman gets to you. So you've already done most of the work, and then the accountant comes in and just corrects it for you. Whereas a financial planner has to be forward thinking and look at what you're about to do, and then put in the steps for you to do it in the right way. That's going to benefit you. And sometimes it's not easy for people to see that. But more importantly, it's like the iceberg effect. They don't see what's underneath, like the hours you put in, the time that you have to put in to actually review someone's pension or understand their situation. Speak to your back office department, speak to your power planners, chase up LOAs, letters of authority, for your pension information, for your ISA information, speak to you about stuff that you may have not even thought about yourself. Wills is one of the big things that a lot of people don't really think about doing. There's about 73% or so of people between 18 to 54 don't have wills. And when you ask them about it, they're like, no, I don't, but I'll get to it.
Yeah.
And they never get to it.
No.
But if they had a financial planner, they'd probably do it. But all of this costs, you get what you pay for at the end of the day. So that's the one side. I think if you want a proper service, you have to pay for it. But also, we're in a space where content is king almost. It's important that people can understand what you're capable of, what you can provide. And I think also, which is something that I'm learning as well, who are you trying to position this content to? Who do you want to help? Who do you want to be your clients? Who do you want to work with, essentially? So that's important to kind of put some of that stuff out there, so that they understand why they should come to you.
Absolutely. And I think you're right there. There's like a tip of the iceberg thing. So I think what somebody, when I think about giving something away, it's about sort of showing them something like we mentioned there about wills. So a good piece of content around that in my head would be like, this is what would happen if you die. Yeah. Or this is what will happen when your wife dies or partner dies. These are the things that could happen. Okay. It could be in, estate planning, inheritance tax. There could be lots of different things, lack of life cover, children, not being able to pay the mortgage, all that kind of stuff. So all of a sudden you're sort of expressing and you're showing the grim reality of not having a protection or a will in place, for example. And when someone sits there and they listen to that and they can hear it and they connect with it and go, well, that's how I feel. I get that, but I don't understand it. So as you kind of clearly define, look, this is the risk, this is the worry of not having it, this is what I can do to help you. Now, if you click the link below, you'll land on a page, and all I need you to do is put your personal details in, and I'll give you a call and I'll talk you through it. So all of a sudden, that free piece of content is like leading them into going, okay, well, he's totally talking to me, because everybody has that worry and that fear in their minds of what would happen. But yet you have to simplify it to make them go, I'm connected to that. It's a 2-minute video. It's not a boring bloody video or a document or a slideshow or a PowerPoint presentation. Is what are you going to do when you, what would happen to your family if you were to die? I mean, there's some really good, I think is it Tom, tom.co.uk. You see him on Instagram all the time if you're a bloke and a dad, and it's always like they're always interviewing some wife or someone whose dad, whose partner's died, and they're talking about life cover, aren't they? And the impact. And I look at it and my girlfriend, my wife tags me in them. Have you done this? Because I don't want to be in this situation. So it's that, again, it's that financial education. It's leading them into giving them something that gives them clarity and understanding. And then the next stage is, well, shit, how do I do it? So then it's going, come and see me, click here and do it this way. So it's combining personal brand, it's combining video, it's combining content, making sure you're getting it out there, but also leading them to a page or leading them to a landing page or a way to then get in contact with you simply. It could be like, if you want the full guide, download the guide here. They give you your details and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a powerful tool. And I think you can do that very well through video. You can do it very well. Sitting there and having someone write an article for you is great for your website, for example, because it builds SEO and all of that. And if someone's typing on the internet, what do I do when I die? The reality is you can pinpoint people in their 30s and 40s on Instagram with a bloody great message and it's done. Do you know what I mean? You might have, that's when I look at the personal brand side of it. And that's where I see the value from a financial planner investing in it, because I see there's such a huge opportunity there, because there's bugger all advisors, not many of them doing that. And there's a shitload of clients out there that need servicing and need advice.
The market has, naturally, because of the qualification side of things, there isn't as many advisors out there as there used to be. But there's still people out there that still need the advice. The scary part of it is a lot of them don't realize that, or they think that they don't need it, but they've never had the conversation to check most of the time. And I think it is just about, like you said, some of this content will educate them, and some of this content will open them to the reality that actually, I was supposed to do it last year. I didn't do it. I need to do it. Why haven't I done it? It's because I don't have a financial advisor. It's almost like, why haven't I done my taxes? Because you don't have an accountant. Why haven't I signed my contracts? Because you don't have a solicitor. The kind of thought process that people need to have. And it can be costly at some times, but like I said, you get what you pay for in most cases. If you find the right person, they should add value to you. That's what I think is more important about it. They should add value to you. So if you feel cheated, it's probably because you didn't get the value out of it.
And it's about, again, you mentioned it, I think earlier on, where you can spend a lot of your time as a financial planner rushing around having these first meetings, can't you? And a lot of the time it's potentially people fishing for information. They're kind of like, okay, well, I'll sit down and I'll talk to them. And you might have their undivided attention for sort of an hour, but how much of that hour do they really digest? And it's about kind of picking the things that are most important. And if you could sit down with 1,000 people like that, and tell them the key things that are the most important to them. How powerful is that? And I think that's the part that I think if I was going down the financial planning route myself, I would just be building upon my personal brand. I'd be just constantly putting out content that was engaging, interesting, building trust and building the relationship. Because although they might not buy from me there and then, they will buy from me in a year's time, or they'll recommend me to one of their friends who's just inherited a load of money. And they'll say, I follow this guy. He's amazing. Yeah, speak to him. He's the man. He's the one in the know. And I would be doing that sort of thing. And that's
what every advisor really wants. You know, they want to work with a good network of clients. I think they don't always want to be chasing. Some of them are happy with it, but you know, the idea is they want to help. I wouldn't say who they want to help, but they want to be in a position where the person that comes to them actually wants their help. Needs their help, as opposed to them always trying to fish to justify
kissing frogs, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, you can't do it to them. You can't do it over and over again. It does get frustrating. I think the older you get, the more frustrating it gets.
Yeah,
because you're so in tune with this wealth of knowledge, this wisdom, and you're sitting in front of this guy, and you can clearly see that he needs your help, but he's so stubborn because he's watched 20 videos of how to set up his own pension, how to trade ETFs, how to buy cryptocurrency, and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden, he's the financial advisor. All of a sudden, he's figured out that he's his own financial advisor, yet he has no qualifications whatsoever.
It's like us all, you know, we all go on to Google now, don't we, to self-diagnose any kind of headache we've got. You know, oh my God, I've got a headache. So I've got, you know, we're all bloody doctors now. You know, and as the information highway grows and grows and grows, and our access to and also to access to some quite good quality information. I think people are becoming wiser and smarter. But I think what it's about, you know, I want to be super fit, so I'm going to follow somebody who's I'm going to follow James, what's his name, Wicks. I'm going to follow him. I want to be a financial advisor, so I'm going to follow Martin Lewis. You can't do it all, you know. And whenever I've been the most successful in my life, right, is because I've built a relationship with a person. I've had a mentor, and I'm very much of a believer that you surround yourself with an expert in something that you're not. So if I've got money issues, I turn to an expert who's in money. If I've got mental health problems, I talk to a mental health expert. If I want to talk to somebody about addiction, I talk to an addiction expert. You know, I've got these people around me, and I turn to them. And I think that's the power, is being that person that someone turns to. And they turn to that person initially through social media. They screen them now, don't they? And you screen through social media, and you build that relationship. It's like getting into veganism. You know, you look at I was really trying to get into veganism. I really wanted to be a vegan, and it was like, and then you start following like vegan chefs or vegan, and then I was like, well, I'm working out loads. I don't want to not eat protein, so you start following a vegan, you know, bodybuilder, and you're like, wow, cool. And you start to pick, don't you, your mentors, and it's about, am I a mentor? Am I adding value to somebody's life all the time? Can I do that without being too pushy? And that's the beautiful thing. It's like when you set that personal brand up, and that's the pathway you're on. And I want you to continue that, because I think that you're absolutely perfect. There's a distinct lack of Black financial planners, right? It's as simple as that. There's a distinct lack of Black financial planners. And you perfectly fit the mold, you know, absolutely age.
I'm trying, you know.
All that. And you just, and I think if you work on that now, and you really build that out, you're going to establish a really good, solid following of people that want to use your services in the future. You just got to keep on building upon that personal brand, building upon the content, and putting things out there that people want to know, and they will come to you, and they'll start to gradually come to you. And
I agree with you. I think, you know, you've really helped me in terms of the conversation we had recently, because, you know, I was that guy that was scared to put content out. I'm still that guy. I'm still scared to put content out because I'm not familiar with it. I'm new to this space. I just feel like I'm a finance guy. I work in finance. I've always worked in finance. Putting out content is a new kind of space for me, and being comfortable that is something I need to get used to as well. But I think it's important. I think it's important for people to hear me as a Black financial advisor, my journey, which is why I put that on my website as well.
Yep.
But also what content I want to bring out, what kind of information I want to provide, and what kind of individuals I want to help as well, what kind of small businesses I want to help as well. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's important. Yeah.
I think picking a niche as well is something that people don't do. They try to think, well, I can give advice to that person, that person, that person. And in reality, you actually can. But I think if you also pick a niche, so for example, if I was a financial planner, I would become the financial planner to the recruitment industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no financial planner that I know that markets himself as a financial planner to the recruitment industry. Why would I do that? Because I've done 13 years within recruitment. I know that recruiters earn a lot of money and piss it up against the wall. And I also have been a business owner. A lot of recruiters that earn good money then usually step into running their own recruitment companies. And there's a lot of recruitment companies out there, and being a business owner in recruitment is stressful. And also you start earning loads of money, you don't quite know what to do with it, and it all becomes, you're a business owner and you got money, and you've probably got no experience of financial services. So all of a sudden you step in and it's like, right, okay, well, let's look at your staff. Let's look at the well-being, the financial well-being of your staff, because it's a stressful job. Have you got any pensions in place? Let's look at that for them as well. But let's look at you. Let's look at what we can do to help you. Are your goals are your personal financial goals in line with your business goals? So it's becoming that kind of businessy, coachy, financial planner type coach thing. And that's how I would do it. And I would go, right, I'll set myself up there. I'll establish what my niche is. It's a great big load of people. It's UK wide. It's bloody worldwide. And I know there's a load of people I can talk to, which means then I can narrow down my content. Does that make sense? It's like it's like I had a lad on who used to be a professional football player. So his niche is for professional football players. So he was a pro footballer, left football. He's a perfect example of being that 1% that made it in football and then didn't. And how easy it is to leave the game and have no money. So he's working with those guys, educating them, working with agents and saying to agents, look, you said you got wealth management across your door, but you're not offering any. Let me be that person. And he's becoming the financial advisor to the football industry. So I think in Michaela Green I had on, who she was the first Black chartered female financial planner in the UK. And she likes working with agents. She loves music. So she works with agents and musicians and entertainers, and she's really starting to establish herself as that niche. And when you do that, all of a sudden you think narrowing down will actually make things more difficult for you, but actually what it does is it opens up everything to you.
And that for me, that's something that I'm still fairly new trying to figure out, and only realizing now that I need to kind of build my niche and just kind of build from there. And when you go into this space, asking about it earlier on, you feel like you need to chase everyone. Because you need to get as many clients as possible. It doesn't matter what they look like, it doesn't matter how much they earn, it doesn't matter what they're doing, but they need to be a certain criteria, and you just need to get them on board. And I think over time you start to realize, actually I need to just kind of fill out this niche and just focus on that and be an expert in that space. I think what always used to work for me, when I moved into broking, I had a lot of friends around me that were trying to build their own businesses and want me to do businesses and stuff with them. And, I just had to focus on broking so that I could make it work, because it wasn't going to work otherwise. I realized that it wasn't very straightforward. It wasn't that easy for me to just get the qualifications and be in it. I needed to learn it. I needed to understand it. I needed to understand me in it. And it took time. It took me kind of figuring out things over time to be good at it. And I think it's just one of those things. You need to find your niche. You need to focus on what that looks like and what kind of content you can provide to them. So that's something I'm still learning and still looking to do.
And some of the things that I'm seeing in other financial planners who are starting to find a niche as well, one of them is this, going back to what your coaching is. And you mentioned about like life-centered financial planning and understanding that life-centered financial planning, but also understanding the behaviors and the psychology of what we do as humans. And then once you can understand that, then you can start to really sort of tap into what people's fears are, not to exploit their fears, but to help bring them to the surface so they themselves can understand why they are fearful, why they are struggling in certain scenarios. And again, that's that people really want to be helped. And that's, again, another area that I would, if I was a planner, that I would be utilizing is becoming this well-being person. Like, I'm going to make your life better. I want to make your life happier. And it's not just about having loads of money. It's about lots of other things. It's about what it's about, if you want to go on those nice holidays, it's if you want to go traveling, it's the house that, I'm going to be here to help you be realistic and set realistic expectations. So you're not just looking at Instagram and thinking that your life should be that way, when actually you can have a beautiful life. You're setting the bar way too high. And I think that type of thing people find really, because they then get the chance to open up to a trusted person, because I don't think anybody really likes to say they don't understand something. And money is one of those things where people, they don't want to be seen to being almost like I'm stupid. And I think, as you rightfully pointed out, lack of financial education. There's plenty of people that knew bugger all about money.
And I've experienced that a lot, speaking to, and it's not just black people, but I've experienced that a lot speaking to younger people, some people in the black community as well, where I've been in finance since I left uni, so I've been experiencing a lot of things: credit cards, debts, loans, mortgages, all this kind of stuff. And sometimes it still surprises me when I might speak to someone and they might say stuff like, "I've never had a credit card." And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, everyone has a credit card. But it's just because some people were brought up in a way where they're not comfortable with leveraging debt, which is fine for some people. It makes sense. But it's just sometimes crazy that some of these individuals have never experienced this stuff, but then start thinking about moving into the space of wanting to have a mortgage and, taking themselves to another level, but not being comfortable with having this small debt over here and knowing how to manage it, and thinking that they're just going to get a mortgage just because they want to have a mortgage, and not understanding how the system looks at things. So for me, it is about that education and making sure that they understand that money is just a tool, isn't it? It's just a medium for transferring from one to another. It doesn't dictate your life. It shouldn't really dictate your life.
No, and I'm starting to learn that it's just an energy. It's out there, and you can construct things in your life, and that energy, that money energy, can flow towards you or it can flow away from you. But and it's just then your connection with it, and how much of yourself do you put in it, and how detrimental is that then to your well-being? Because if you're living constantly in what you want, you're fucked, aren't you? Because you're never happy.
I always, when I was broken, the mentality was, I remember the guys I used to work with was like, spend your money and make it back. Don't worry about it. Just
it's never ending.
It's never ending. So it's like, you made 5-10 grand this month, brilliant. Spend it. Don't worry, you'll make it back next month. And that was the mentality. And you just got into a little bit of a rhythm of, okay, it's fine. I can do what I want with it. I can squander it. I can just splash out and go here, go on holiday and do that. And then I'll be back to zero and I'll just make it back again. And it helped in terms of being persistent and chasing and having that motivation. But then it didn't really help me in terms of starting to save for my future and for my family and all that kind of stuff, because I just didn't have that mentality to go, let me put some of it here.
Which then makes you anxious, doesn't it? It then makes you anxious, because the more you realize that you can't sustain that life and making that money in a high pressure environment, because inevitably you get burnout. And I experienced that. Like, I was, raking in like 10 grand a month, and all of a sudden I was like, this isn't actually making me happy. And then I got down, and then I got burnt out, and then I was like, oh, I've just spent all that money.
It's crazy, and
man.
I think depending on your background as well. And the reason I say that is because I remember working in some of these places and seeing the different work ethic from someone that had come from, I wouldn't say privileged background, but someone that didn't essentially need the money. They didn't need to do the grafting, because if they lost the job, it wasn't the end of the world for them. And then seeing somebody that, like myself, that might have come from an area where I wasn't always around money, in a certain way. And once I saw it, I was like, I don't want to lose it. I need to work hard to keep it. I need to have it around me, but then not necessarily knowing what to do with it as well. So it was a bit of a endless cycle. You know, you felt good, you had the instant gratification, and then you back on the low, and then you build yourself back up, and it was just constant, and it was never ending. But
so you're starting to what you're starting to do here is you're starting to understand the persona of the type of person that you need to be talking to.
Yeah.
High earners, perhaps in their 30s and 40s, who know really that they should be doing something with their money, but they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And it's about, and you're then going through that, and you're around the same age of them as well, and you've experienced what they've experienced. Or perhaps people in their 20s could be working as city brokers, stockbrokers, high earning job titles. You know, you can go into LinkedIn, for example, start connecting with people with certain job titles that you know are high earners. And that's a really useful way of building good clients through LinkedIn, is just targeting people by job title and what they earn, and then starting to build that relationship and then putting content in front of them. Because as you rightfully said, when you're a trader yourself and when you're trying to build clients in the city, people are busy and they need to be able to digest that information and build the relationship before they meet you. And it's a great way of doing it, is connecting with them and then giving them content, and then they'll come to you, or you can then reach out to them, and what they'll say is like, do you know what? I've seen your content, Michael. I like it. Yeah. And I get it. I phone people up and I'm like, hey, how you doing? It's Sam from Financial Planner Life. And they're like, oh yeah, I've seen your videos. I've never spoken to them before ever, but they know me. And it's like a hell of an easier conversation to have. And that's the kind of power in it. Michael,
biggest hurdle.
That is a big hurdle. Michael, I've got to draw this to an end because I've got well, that's the end of the podcast. I could talk to you all day about this, and I think what we'll do, Michael, as well, is we'll catch up anyway, and we'll talk about this personal branding stuff and how potentially I can help you, and give you some hints and tips and pointers. And the aim for me at the moment is to create a really decent personal branding workshop that gets people thinking about the persona of the audience that they want to target, and how to get over hurdles such as, what are people going to think of me? What content should I put out? How do I do it? What tools do I need? Is it going to cost me loads of money? All these things that stop us from doing it. And then setting like a plan of action. So somebody goes, right, within 8 weeks, I know that I'm going to put out 10, 15, 20 pieces of content. And at the end of that, we could actually see what value that's actually added. And that's the sort of thing that I want to do, is a workshop like that, where it encourages and guides you to do the work yourself. Because one of the biggest things around personal brand is that you have to do the work yourself. No one's going to do it for you.
No one can tell you who you are.
And it's like, and that's do you know what? But the thing is, though, right, you could pull a mobile phone up, record into your mobile phone in 15 minutes, put some subtitles on it, whip it out the door, and it's job done. I think sometimes people can overcomplicate it. And
that's my problem there. That's the one thing that you told me before, and I'm still struggling to kind of get my head around of just, and it's almost just executing it. Sometimes it's not even just a case of, you know what you want to say, but it's just actually executing and feeling comfortable in your own skin with what you've created and what you put out there. And, you know, just being unapologetic about it, you know.
100%. As long as you believe, if it's something that you would tell somebody face to face, you should feel confident to put it on your social media and tell everyone.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
I might write that down. I like that.
That's the truth, isn't it? And that's the authentic again. You know, if I'm confident to tell somebody face to face and it's not a lie and I'm not misleading or anything like that, then why shouldn't I tell everybody? Put yourself on a platform and do it, because that's what it's about. You know, and sometimes someone might not like your personality. They might not like what you look like. So what? How many people? You're going to walk into, you go into a room full of 50 women, right? I tell you what, not all of them are going to like you. You know, you can't.
I'm surprised, but you're probably right.
You can't please. It doesn't happen to me. You know, I'm swamped. It's a nightmare. But like, you know, you can't please all the people all the time, and you can't. You know, it's as simple as that. And I think once you get that lodged in your head, the fear leaves you. And actually, what I've found that it's done huge things for my confidence.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I'm okay with, I know there's financial advisors out there probably looking at me going, oh, this guy's a dipstick, a recruiter
Yeah.
trying to talk about financial planning. It's like,
Yeah.
well, no. And other people come to me saying, thank you so much for your content. It's really helping me. And that's what I gravitate towards. If I know that there's 10, 15 people in a week that come to me and say they love my stuff, I'm doing something right, aren't I?
And that I think that was a key thing for me. I think being able to show myself through this website and be comfortable with who I am and not worry about what other people think, because I think that's always held me back. I have been, and I probably always will be, a people pleaser in one way, shape, or form. But I think over time I've just started, and I'm still learning to just be comfortable with who I am and not too focused about what other people think about me and what I look like and how I talk and all this kind of stuff. And there's still people out there for me to help, irrespective of that.
100%, mate. And I tell you what, being yourself, you attract the right people. And another thing I'll say on that is that why pretend to be somebody you're not? Because if you're going to build a long-term relationship with somebody, you need to get on with them.
Yeah.
They need to like you. Exactly. Otherwise, you're just putting on all your airs and graces all the time, and you're living a lie. And
you don't want to have that one weekend where you change into somebody else and they're like, who's this guy?
No, you want people to see everything about you and laugh at your jokes and cringe at you sometimes and all of that. And I think that's what it's about. So you're certainly on the right path. And that was another reason why I wanted to get you on the podcast, because I know that you're on the right path. I know that you're at the early stage of your career.
Yeah,
you're definitely from someone on the outside looking in. Yeah, you've got it there, mate. Just go with it. And we'll and I'll keep in contact with you, mate,
Yeah, definitely.
and see where the road takes us. Huh? Yeah.
I really appreciate it, Sam. Yeah,
sweet.
Good. I really enjoyed this. Really appreciate it.
Top man. Well, thank you so much for being a guest. And you shared loads of content today that I think would be really interesting to anybody that's thinking about a career within financial planning and also looking to sort of, get ahead in the game, really.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time today. And I'll get the podcast topped and tailed and I'll let you know when I'm releasing it. All right.
No, thanks.
Sweet. Nice one, Michael.